Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. I'm Raffi, joined by Davian. As always, Davian, the Eastern and Western Conference Finals for the NHL are now over. Both series ended in 5 games. And Davian, we have a rematch. It's going to be once again, just like last year, the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. It's going to be a great series once again. Hopefully, it goes 7 just like last year. But before we get into that, give some predictions, dissect this matchup. How are things, Davian? How are you? Knicks pushed the game 6 versus the Pacers. We'll be doing
Yeah,
our NBA finals talk next week. So we'll get into that more in depth next week, and hopefully your Knicks are facing off against the OKC Thunder.
yeah. I mean, I'm really hoping for that. Overall, I'm optimistic for the Knicks, but I'm also very happy because Cornell over here, our national champions in lacrosse. We beat the Maryland Terps. It was an amazing game. I got to luckily watch, and bringing a trophy back home is always a good thing, no matter the sport. So I'm pretty happy. But in any case, Rafi, how are you?
I'm doing great. I would have loved to have seen a longer playoff series for
Yeah,
both the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. I feel like NBA fans can relate to this, even though the Knicks did push
100%. Yep.
a game 6. It feels like these conference finals, for how close and similar both these matchups were with the teams facing off, it felt like both of these series could go 7. And that's not just me
Yeah.
saying with every series, this series is going to go 7. So it was
Yeah.
definitely surprising that both series went 5. And it was really surprising, too, that both of these teams really handled the business versus their opponents. The Hurricanes looked really rough the first couple of games. They lost 5-2, 5-0, 6-2 before finally winning game 4. But then the Panthers came right back and won 5-3. Then you have Oilers Stars, where the Stars had a phenomenal third period in game 1 to come back. They scored 5 goals, down 3-1 to win the game 6-3. But after that, it was really all Oilers the rest of the way. And obviously so, they won their last 4 games 3-0, 6-1, 4-1, and 6-3. David, what are your thoughts on this matchup? What are your initial takes and reactions when looking at the Panthers versus Oilers?
Well, I mean, both very good teams. I feel like I'm not the biggest hockey fan, Rafi, but what I can say that I feel like this is a game of speed against really physicality. Speed coming really from the Oilers side with McDavid leading the offense. Just a very fast paced team. Meanwhile, you have the Stars. Stars. Wow, I'm already. Here's my hockey knowledge. The Panthers on the other side with Bobrovsky at the net behind protecting the pipes. I feel like it's that team in general is a very physical team, but both teams are slightly different in formation than they were last year. Of course, Marchand playing for the Panthers definitely brings a different aspect to the team than they had last year in this same series. But I'm very excited to see. I think that both teams, there's a reason why most they're like I looked up predictions and really it's a toss up. Of course, a lot of people are leaning towards the Oilers, and we'll get into our predictions soon. But I think that this is gonna be a great series. I can easily see it going 7. I hope it goes to 7 because at the end of the day, more hockey is good. More hockey is good. The more the merrier, as the saying goes. But yeah, Rafa, you definitely know a lot more than I do. What are your thoughts, kind of initially, on what's on this series?
Yeah, honestly, pretty surprising that both these teams found themselves back in the Stanley Cup Finals. Both
Very
teams
true. Yep.
were in their respective division, finishing third. Now, this could partially be due to letting your foot off the gas a little bit. The Oilers, honestly, if you had told me at the start of the year the Oilers are in the Stanley Cup final, I would not be surprised by that, just for the sole
Yeah.
reason that I, for one, had the Oilers as a better team. I thought going in, yes, you lose Broberg, yes, you lose Holloway to offer sheets. You pick up a guy like Jeff Skinner, you pick up a guy like Podkolzin, you pick up a guy as well in Victor Arvidsson, Matthias Janmark. They really had a deep team, but that really didn't show for most of the regular season. But here in the postseason, yes, you have Connor McDavid putting up 26 points so far this postseason. Yes, you have Leon Draisaitl putting up 25 points in the postseason. But you're getting timely goals and points from other players, solid producers. Last year, it really felt like Draisaitl and McDavid were willing this team to the Stanley Cup final all the way through, all the way to come back. only to fall in Game 7 versus the Florida Panthers. But this year, it's really been a team effort. Evander Kane's contributing. He has 11 points so far in this playoffs. Corey Perry has 7 goals, 10 points. He has been an unsung hero in many of these matchups, really getting in front of the net, really annoying the defenseman, really annoying the goalie, and really playing well within that circle area, just outside the half circle, the goalie's crease and paint. You have Connor Brown, who has 8 points in 14 games. Wallman has been a fantastic addition. They have, for the first time over in the Connor McDavid era, I'd say, depth at both forward and defense, and it's really, really helped them out. And then I can keep going on and on about the depth production that they're getting from the rest of their lines after the first and second line. Stuart Skinner, I thought he was cooked. We all were like, oh, playoff Stuart Skinner's coming. Oh, he's letting in 5 goals, 6 goals. It's the Oilers are cooked. Outside of a couple games this postseason, Stuart Skinner has been one of the Oilers' better players this postseason. He has 3 shutouts so far. He's been really solid between the pipes. Sorry, pull up the stats real quick. 2.53 goals allowed on average, 904 save percentage. Those don't scream, oh my gosh, he's playing head over heels fantastic, but he's making the big saves when it matters. And a lot of those 2 stats are weighed down a little bit just because of some unfortunate games where he allowed 5-6 goals. But overall, Stuart Skinner has been exactly what the Oilers have needed, if not a little more, to make it all the way to the Stanley Cup Final this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think that, one thing that, I think you're 100% right about the depth. I think for once, look, I'm not like, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but, I've watched, yes, I'm not the biggest hockey fan, but I have watched this Edmonton Oilers team, and I felt like they've always lacked really building around McDavid and bringing more offensive pieces. And I feel like for once, they finally have depth, like you said, on the offensive side. I think with the Panthers, I think just, having such a good goalie is really, really key in the playoffs. And yes, the Oilers, in terms of their defense, has really stepped up and have shown that they can truly play. But I think I personally, yes, I personally have to give that the Panthers have the goalie advantage. And Raffi, I'd love to hear your take. What do you think? Like, yes, the Oilers have done better defensively, but do you think it's an even playing field on the goalie side and the defensive side, or do you think that the Panthers have the edge with a guy like Bobrovsky protecting the pipes?
I definitely think that you have the benefit of having a guy like Bobrovsky, and I know you can make the argument Stuart Skinner just went all the way to the Stanley Cup Final last year. Bobrovsky is coming off 2 really solid postseason runs, both winding up all the way to the Stanley Cup Final. Obviously, they fell short in 2023, losing, I believe, in 5 to the Vegas Golden Knights. Correct me if I'm wrong, is that your sweeper in 5? Regardless, made to Stanley Cup Final, runner-up this past year, made it all the way, once again, won the Stanley Cup. Now he's back. So Sergei Bobrovsky certainly has the big save potential, the big game potential. He really shut down the Maple Leafs in Game 5, in Game 7, and Game 3. It looked like things were a little iffy to start that Toronto series. A lot of people were wondering, okay, is this the fall off? Are the Panthers cooked, etc.? They go down 2-0, but Bobrovsky allows a lot of soft goals, but he really rebounded well. And the rest of that series, it was really apparent that Sergei Bobrovsky was back on the case. He was really, really solid overall. So I would give the edge to the Florida Panthers, but by all means, I wouldn't say that it's a dead win for the Florida Panthers when comparing the 2 goalies. I think Stuart Skinner has been outstanding, and look no further than this recent series versus the Dallas Stars. You go up against Jake Ottinger, and Ottinger, one of the top 10 goalies in the NHL, might even be the starter for the U.S. national team this upcoming year. And that's not just because they have no goalies. They have a ton of goalies, unlike Canada. I'm sure Canada would love if Jake Ottinger was Canadian. And Stuart Skinner was the better goalie in that series. Stuart Skinner was also the better goalie versus Darcy Kemper, who's going to be a Vezina Trophy finalist. We saw Stuart Skinner play really, really solid, but again, I do give the goaltending edge slightly to Florida, but I think it's close. And then to fully round out your question, defensively, I think they're pretty similar. I think the Oilers' depth, there's more depth there. Wallman and Stetcher have really shored up that bottom pair. Ekholm's healthy now, so he's going to step into a role. Probably Stetcher's going to come out. So now you're going to have Wallman and really another solid defense. Maybe Kulak falls down to the bottom pair. So you have a really solid defense. I like the Oilers' depth more. Do I dare say? I'll go with the Oilers defense as well over the Florida Panthers. I'll go with the Oilers defense. I think their depth's better overall, even though the Panthers certainly have some solid producers in both Ekblad and Jones on the right side.
Yeah, and I think one thing to be noted is that Edmonton, in terms of their penalty kill, ranks a bit behind the Panthers statistically, but it's such a marginal difference. 80.7% versus 78.2 Edmonton, with the Panthers having the advantage. I personally think that. I do think one thing to note, when we're talking about power plays and penalty kills, is that like at least in the regular season, the Panthers had ranked they ranked the highest in terms of the amount of penalty minutes that they had at 10.3. And with a team like Edmonton that's so good offensively, I feel like you can't give up those penalty minutes. And so, Raffi, do you think that's going to be a factor? The amount of penalties that the Panthers have taken on, being a physical team that they are, playing the physicality that they are, that they have in the playoffs as well. Do you think that's going to be a factor heading into this Stanley Cup matchup as well?
Yeah, I
In a
definitely.
sense that might give the Edmonton an advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. The Oilers' power play is always clicking, and although Hyman will be out for this Stanley Cup rematch, I still think the Oilers' power play is extremely deadly. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has been fantastic. Really, really was an all-star player versus the Dallas Stars. And when you have a power play unit of him, Evan Bouchard, oh wait, Corey Perry in front of the net, and then oh wait, I forgot to also mention that you have Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. The Panthers PK really solid. Obviously, a Selke Trophy finalist year in year out in Alexander Barkov. Sam Reinhart's healthy, and this week off is really going to do well for him because he missed games 3 and 4 versus Carolina. He's a really solid two-way forward as well. So Florida does have the penalty killers to be able to hold the Oilers from scoring on the power play, but the more opportunities you give the Oilers, the more opportunities they're going to have to cash in. You don't want to take this team lightly.
Agreed. And so now, I feel like we kind of did a good overview. Unless Rafi, there's anything else you want to mention. Who's your winner, though?
I mean, when we're looking at these two teams, and I don't want to do the scapegoat, oh, it's a really close matchup. I think it's going to go 7. But I think it's a really evenly matched group. I'm going to go with the Oilers, and this might be shocking to many because a few weeks ago I was on this podcast sitting in the same chair I am in the same setup that I was in my room saying I have the LA Kings over the Edmonton Oilers. I think this is the year the Oilers are a concerning team. I don't think that they're going to go on a deep postseason run this year, blah, blah, blah. In which now, a couple weeks later, I realized that I was wrong. The LA Kings are a team that cannot be trusted. They are now in LA Chargers and Toronto Maple Leafs realm, where I will not pick them now
Agreed. Yeah.
going forward in the postseason. They've earned that honor. So I'm gonna go with the
Yeah.
Oilers. I think it'd be really poetic as well. People were talking a couple over the past couple of days where it's like, oh, Wayne Gretzky lost his first postseason run Stanley Cup final matchup to the Islanders. The next year he makes it. He wins the Stanley Cup. Sidney Crosby loses his first Stanley Cup final appearance. Next year beats the Red Wings in the rematch. Oilers, Connor McDavid loses the first time versus the Florida Panthers in the Stanley Cup final in his first SCF appearance. The following year, I'm going to go with the Oilers. I think it's poetic. Does that mean that Canada gets their first Stanley Cup since 1993? Unfortunately, are we going to hear about it for a year? Yes, but it's okay because USA will get the next 30 Stanley Cups. So it is what it is. I think it's good for the sport if Connor McDavid does win a Stanley Cup. He's the best player
Yep.
in the NHL, and
He is. He's the face of
I
the
think
NHL.
I think we're gonna see Nathan McKinnon 2022 playoff energy out of McDavid and Draisaitl, where they say we are not losing this series, we are not losing back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals, we are winning, and I think they're really going to take control of this series. So I'm going to go Oilers in 6. I think the Panthers' physicality is going to give the Oilers fits. I think that the Panthers are going to do whatever they can to try to take McDavid and Draisaitl out of the series. And if you say, oh, are you saying that they might intend to injure them? I would say absolutely. We've seen that the Florida Panthers are more than willing to take out opponents. Sorry, Toronto
Yep.
Maple Leafs fans, for bringing that out. Anyways, Florida, I really like the team. Really solid. That third line of Luosterainen, Marchand, and Lundell has been nothing but fantastic. But this year, I'm going to go with the Oilers and Oilers in 6. David, who do you have?
I'm going to echo what you just said because honestly, I see that this is the year the Oilers really win it. I think it's, I feel like, you mentioned it. They lost last year. I feel like coming into this year, it's kind of like you're coming in with an anger and a want to
Revenge
win.
for energy.
Yeah, exactly. You have a energy, like you don't have that fatigue, which I don't think, clearly the Panthers don't seem to have that either, but you don't have that fatigue of winning and coming back. They're really hungry for this, and they're representing an entire country now, really. And we could talk about the political status of the world and everything, on another podcast, and probably not on this podcast. But I feel like there's some, factors that play into that you're coming in with just with everything else going on in the world, that they're really trying to just push it and really try to win it now. I have the Oilers in 6 as well. I think that their offense is going to overlord Bobrovsky, and I really think they're going to win it.
Congratulations, Florida Panthers, on going back-to-back, winning back-to-back Stanley Cups. Again, I can certainly see the Panthers winning the Stanley Cup. I just think that in all likelihood, just going into the series, and obviously things can change. We could see someone else we could see Barkov completely take over this series, and it's like, okay, he is the Stanley Cup champ. He is the Conn Smythe Trophy winner. If the Florida Panthers beat the Oilers, I think I could not tell you. I know puck, but I don't know all these stats. We could see the first time in at least a while where a player wins back-to-back Conn Smythe trophies for playoff MVP without winning the Stanley Cup, which would just be absolutely ridiculous. Because you look at the Florida Panthers, and a lot of this is stats-wise. Obviously, when you look at Barkov, his two-way value is the big thing for him. Barkov leads the Panthers in points right now. He's point per game, 17 points in 17 games. Connor McDavid has 9 more points in 1 less game than Barkov does. It's going to be really hard if the Panthers win the Stanley Cup to not give the Conn Smythe Trophy to Connor McDavid, unless Sergei Bobrovsky just shuts out the Oilers for the entire series. But I consider that highly unlikely. That would be ridiculous if that wound up happening. But it is a scenario that I think could definitely play out. And before we close out with our final thoughts, I just want to mention, I don't feel like we've given the Panthers enough light. So before we end the show, I just want to mention too that the Panthers are a fantastic team. I do think Tkachuk, if this was December regular season, I don't think he'd be playing for at least another month or two. He's certainly looked a little off this postseason, and I do think that injury that he sustained at Four Nations is still ailing him, and I think we're certainly going to hear about it right after this Stanley Cup final is complete, and he might need surgery. I'm not a doctor. I don't know what's going on with him, but I certainly think that he's been battling something serious to the point where he just hasn't looked as good as 100% as one would want. But this team is deep. They made some big moves that shuckled with the Seth Jones trade. That there's your Braden Montour replacement. Then you pick up Marchand as well. So this team is really solid. Carter Verhaeghe always scores big goals. Reinhart with a week off, as I mentioned previously, will be big for them just because the health aspect of that and having a week off. And then the big thing as well too is Gustav Forsling has been fantastic. And Niko Mikkola. 2 pickups that went under the radar when they initially happened. Mikkola from the Blues and then Forsling off waivers from the Hurricanes that the Panthers have really hit on. And that's what you need when you're building a cup team. You need to hit on some of those random acquisitions that no one really thinks of. So Panthers did a great job building this team. It'd be unfortunate if they lose 2 in 3 Stanley Cup Finals appearances, but you have the last 6 Stanley Cup Finals that have been represented by a team from Florida, either the Lightning or the Panthers, which has really helped with growing hockey in Florida. So regardless, they went a long way from having me joke about them consistently as a teenager about how they only have 10 fans. So they have at least 20 now. Good job, guys.
Yep. No, you're completely right. And I feel like, again, like it wouldn't be surprising to see a Panthers team like this win. I feel like, I haven't been paying attention as closely as much, but yes, I feel like that injury on Tkachuk is definitely playing a factor. But I think it's gonna be an exciting series. No matter, I feel like you're gonna see a lot of pundits that are gonna be saying like, look, I think this is the Oilers' year, but at the end of the day, even if it is, it's not gonna be without a fight. This is as we've consistently said throughout this podcast, the Panthers are a very, very physical team, and I feel like this is going to play a huge, huge factor, and it's going to create an exciting matchup. speed versus physicality. And, with both teams having there's a reason why both of these teams have made it back here where they are. And I think I can't wait to watch. For once, I'm actually going to turn on hockey, which I haven't really done as often as I should be, given how fun the sport is to watch. But it's going to be a fun time to watch this series.
Well, better now than never. So that'll do it for this
Yep.
edition of the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. Davian, I'm very proud of you, though, even though you kind of dissed hockey at the end of the show in your closing remarks. I still do appreciate that you at least you know puck, you know hockey. I am so
I know
proud
puck. I know
of
puck,
how
guys. I
much
know puck.
hockey you know. Tune into next week where we talk NBA Finals, where the script is flipped, and I have to look like I know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about with the NBA playoffs, because I can assure
Yeah.
you I have not watched a single second of the NBA playoffs. So I'll definitely be doing my research. I've been keeping tabs on the scores, but that'll be a fun show as well. Next week, we'll both be
Definitely.
prepared to have a good discussion. We'll see if the Knicks wind up making it that far, or if we get the NBA's worst nightmare, which is an Indiana Pacers versus Oklahoma City Thunder. NBA
Yeah, talk
Finals
about
matchup.
ratings
The
going down
ratings,
in the NBA.
yeah, the
Ain't
ratings
nobody
won't
gonna be
be as
watching.
good as they'll be slightly worse than if we had, for example, the Lakers versus Celtics. But anyways, that'll do it for this edition of the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. Let us know in the comments who you have winning the Stanley Cup Final. As always, for Davian, for myself, we hope you enjoyed. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel as well, and we'll catch you on the next one. See ya.
Peace.